Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the October meeting of the joint Metro North Long Island committees. We're going to have a safety briefing first, and then we will go to public comments.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. As an initial matter, I have a brief safety announcement for everyone in attendance. Good morning. Your safety is our first priority. The following are the procedures to follow in the event of an emergency. If an alarm sounds, wait for a public address announcement and follow the instructions. If told to go to another floor or to evacuate the building, please leave all unessential items behind and use stairwell exit A just across from the main hallway, or stairwell E, which is down the hall past the elevator lobby. Notify emergency personnel if you need any assistance. Automated external defibrillator, AED, for use by trained personnel are located in the main hall just past the elevators. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, we have 4 public speakers this morning. The first 2 speakers are Orrin Getz, followed by Jason Pinheiro.
Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, members of the board. My name is Orrin Getz. First thing is that the heat has not been turned on in the shelters, not only at Nanuet, but also at Tarrytown. Now, I know that Commissioner Glucksman had called this problem in last week, and still nothing has been done. We need all of the shelters at all the Metro North stations with working heat. Please take care of this as soon as possible. I passed along to Chairman Metzger and Chairman Pally an email that provided a link of a video that Governor Cuomo sent to President Trump showing the extreme deterioration of the Hudson River rail tunnels. Please pass this link along to other board members so they can see how horrible the condition of those tunnels are. Please note also that the MTA had pulled out of the original ARC project, which eventually caused that project to fail. We need the MTA to be an active partner in this Gateway project so that it is a success. These tunnels need to be fixed as soon as possible. Also, on October 10th, 2018, I attended the New Jersey Transit Board of Directors meeting and recommended that New Jersey Transit turn over the possession of the Suffern Station to the MTA. With MTA control of Suffern Station, the station to be upgraded, provide full handicapped accessibility, and to be as nice as some of the stations that Metro North has on the east side of the Hudson. Please understand that our county executive, Ed Day, had sent a letter to the chairman of the MTA 2 years ago, and nothing has been done about this. We really need some action on this thing as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Morning, Mitch. Good morning, Chuck. Welcome back. We missed you last month, but going to my speech, Philip and we want explanation of the 3-day chaos that we had along the Atlantic Branch and our Far Walkaway and at Penn Station. Next month, we will have Long Island Railroad daily commuter speaking about his daily chaos when he uses the railroad. Regarding Metro North, Catherine, great presentation this morning. I would love to see it, and I would love to see the improvements that you have in store for Metro North. And otherwise, that's all I have to say for this month. And Philip, and keep doing your job. I'm going for you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, the next 2 speakers are Murray Bowden, followed by Carrie King.
I can't see you all. Andy, thank you for supporting Works in Progress at the Guggenheim. Disclaimer, this is going to take longer than the allotted time, and I'm going to do it anyhow. It has to be done. I was going to talk about rape, but it was overshadowed by what I got this morning. Lie of the day. An absolute lie. Has anybody seen 60 Minutes last night? That's the direction that the MTA needs to go in. Andy was excellent. This is an absolute lie. Why? There's a red box at Roaring Brook, which is completely illegal. Nothing being done about it. Susan, it's your responsibility, and if you can't deal with it, then it's time for you to get off the board. The train horns are blowing all over the place. Whose responsibility is that? That needed to go out when New York Central Railroad went out, and you can't stop it. Positive train control. Hey, Neil, good morning. You are a helicopter pilot. You know about controls. You want to meet with me and put positive train control as it is currently done to rest because it's idiotic and out of date. Either that or get off the board. Chuck? Stations in the Bronx took so long? How come you let it go by so long? Change the rules. Either get them to do it now and not in 10 years from now, or you get off the board. Mitch, your responsibility is Long Island. There are red flashing lights and traffic lights in East Hampton, and you said it's not my job. Well, what is your job on the board if not to do that? I certainly can't go out to Long Island and do it. And if you can't do it, you get off the board too. Yeah, I hear the whistle. Half this board doesn't belong here anymore. You're outdated. You have no idea what's going on. Rape means when somebody is taken advantage of and nobody listens. Are you listening? Maybe you ought to listen that when I recommend that this place isn't running right, that you pay a little attention yourself. 60 Minutes last night showed you how it should be done. It's not being done here. Well, whose job is to change it if not mine? You all won't speak up because you love your jobs. You don't want to get out of here. I don't have much longer. I'm 85 and I'm going to die soon. And if I don't do it now, it'll never get done. This BS that's been going on.
Please wrap up your remarks.
Why? Because you want me to?
No, out of courtesy to everyone here.
I'm sorry. When I have to tell you that half this board doesn't belong here, that's important to these people out here. You know how many people said hello to me this morning? They said hello to me because they want me to stay here and do exactly what I'm doing.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Carrie King, and I'm from an organization called Uptown Grand Central. I do know some folks here, not everybody. Actually, I don't know the majority of you, but I know several folks in the audience because we're the community development group for East 125th Street. So in East Harlem, that means everything from 5th Avenue eastward, which includes the Metro North Station at 125th Street. We have been there for the past 3 years underneath the tracks. When you exit the station, those of you who know the station, when you exit the station and you look south across 125th Street and you see that bright red and yellow and blue mural, that's us. The space across from the Metro North Station is owned by the Department of Transportation, and we adopted it as a community plaza 3 years ago, and as you know, it is an area in need of much love. I wanted to come today because I know specifically that you're having the homeless outreach report, and that's something that affects us greatly at that space. As the community partner, we power wash it daily, which, as you know, is very necessary. And we also program it with all kinds of community programming, including a farmer's market year-round, a small business pop-up shop, exercise classes, live music, all kinds of good things. And about half of the people that pass through are Metro North customers. They always tell us that they really appreciate what we're doing in making their commute a better ride and in making it more enjoyable to come through the station. So I just wanted to come today and just say hello, and also to say that we're really appreciative of all the station upgrades that are taking place. The new staircases, which took a minute to get installed, are beautiful. There's new signage that's going to be unveiled shortly. There's new lighting, and we're really looking forward to the new lighting that's going to be on the DOT, the MTA Arts and Design panels on the side of the viaduct. So things are looking up there. I just wanted to also say that we have really great ideas for the future of the station. You may notice that we adopted our name Uptown Grand Central from another station that has a bit more cachet than ours, but given that the 2nd Avenue subway is coming this way, we know that there's a great future for things that can be done there, and we look forward to partnering with you. I have information, although I know I'm not supposed to pass it out, but if anybody wants any, I have it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you for your continued involvement in our system. We deeply appreciate it. Is that the end of the public comment period?
That concludes our list of public speakers,
Thank you
Mr.
very
Chairman.
much. I have the minutes of the September 24th meeting. First, the Long Island Railroad minutes. I will move them. Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. And the Metro North minutes for their meeting on September 24th. Susan will move them. Second. Oh, I'll move them. That's right. You were not here. I'll move them. I was the chair. Second. All in favor? All right. Okay. Are there any changes to the work plan for either Long Island or Metro North?
No changes to work plan, Mitch.
Actually, there's a slight change. The diversity and EEO report for the 2nd quarter for both Metro North and Long Island has been moved to November.
Okay. Excellent. Then we'll go into the President's report. Phil?
Thank you, Mitch. Good morning, everyone. As I begin, I'm pleased to announce today that both Chris Calvagna, Senior VP for Engineering, and Rod Brooks, Senior VP for Operations, are now both permanent in their roles. Both have demonstrated a great sense of teamwork and commitment for excellence to both our customers and to our employees. Their leadership, the leadership team is critical to the success of the railroad, and I'd like to thank and congratulate both of them.
We welcome both of them in their new roles. Congratulations, gentlemen. That was 2021 for East Side Access, right? I just wanted to make sure I heard that correctly.
You heard it, guys. So the Long Island Railroad has had a busy and productive summer, making progress on many initiatives. Whoops. On many initiatives, including Harold Interlocking, Mainline Second Track, Hicksville Station, and Long Island Railroad Forward, to only name a few. However, as the temperatures drop this fall, the Long Island Railroad workers are not slowing down. Our labor force continues to work around the clock to reach and even beat project timelines. With our new pressure washers, we are now out nightly removing crushed leaves and leaf residue from our tracks. This week, we will begin installing the new laser technology that is planned to enter a pilot test by the end of October. And to prepare for the upcoming winter, we're installing snow switch covers and third rail heaters. These will help combat snow-related delays. Another critical work that has accelerated on the Long Island Forward is our effort to address poor drainage conditions as we repair and replace critical switches. So here, this is switch 57 at Hall Interlocking, just east of Jamaica Station, which our crews are tackling right now. As you can see from the photos, decades of foul ballast has built up and blocked drainage. As part of this, we're also installing under drains and dry wells, and we expect to finish this work by the week's end, which will result in a more reliable commute as we proactively eliminate potential causes of switch failures and associated train delays. With all other ensuing project work, my team is finding creative ways to balance system improvements and state of good repair work with efficient, reliable service. Our crews have also been busy working system-wide on other important projects. This is a finished photo, by the way, of switch 57 as we continue to improve switch work. Our crews have also been working system-wide on other important projects like replacement of the pedestrian overpass at Gibson Station on the Far Rockaway branch beginning just this past weekend. Over the past several weeks, we've continued enhanced safety testing known as Sperry rail testing using technology like ultrasonic. This work is being done on multiple branches, identifying flaws and defects before they fail so we can further ensure the safety and reliability of our track. We've also installed new rail and replaced concrete ties on Port Jefferson branch and replaced a switch on the Babylon branch. All of this preventive and corrective work is critical to improving service and makes a significant impact on how our system operates and how our customers experience our system. Earlier this month, crews successfully replaced the Buckham Road Bridge in Locust Valley. Here's a video clip, a time delay lapse showing the work. In 2017 alone, this bridge was struck 5 times, resulting in significant delays. They started this work on a Friday night and finished on time in the morning hours on Tuesday. This work was an incredibly planned and coordinated effort between the contractor, Long Island Railroad forces, our customers, and the community. And we're working hard to ensure that customers are informed every step of the way long before the work starts. And last week, we hosted a grand reopening of Flushing Main Street Station in Queens, where we installed 2 new elevators that reach both platforms, bringing true ADA accessibility to this station for the first time in its 160-plus year history. Our team's efforts to renew this station earned the Long Island Railroad, the Women in Transportation Service, 2018 Annual Innovative Transportation Solutions Award, which recognizes improved accessibility to the station, as well as improved station environment and enhanced presence on Main Street. I'd also like to acknowledge Poonam Punj, our Director of Program Management, whose vision and leadership was invaluable in making this a reality. So PTC installation and testing continues as we remain on track for 2018 compliance. And as we continue to move with a sense of urgency to complete these modernization projects and critical work, we know that it puts a stress on us to provide normal service. Just like any construction project, highway, bridge, rail, travel through a work zone slows down to ensure safety. Outages provided to support work reduce capacity, but delaying work will not improve service for our customers. Double-tracking the Ronkonkoma branch 15 months ahead of schedule is a perfect example, as now we see the operational benefits it's delivering. And we're making progress along all of our branches. It will not be an overnight transformation, and we need more investment, but we are tackling the issues head-on. We are starting to see the improvements despite what some recent reports have implied. So, for instance, while reports of increased train cancellations have been made, I clarify that 70% of this year's cancellations occurred in the first 3 months of 2018. Many were due to weather, and while we cannot control Mother Nature, we are taking bold measures to protect our system and optimize our train operations during emergency weather events. So additionally, other reports called for Long Island Railroad to stop all trains at all Queens locations, a policy that needs to be carefully reviewed. We are committed to thinking outside the box when it comes to expanded service opportunities, and our venture with the Atlantic Ticket Field Study shows that. But I caution, number of available seats should not be construed as an abundance of capacity. And this is evidenced by the need to recently lengthen platforms at Kew Gardens and Forest Hills to address capacity concerns and improve loading and unloading times. This is an example where we use innovative, quick solutions to improve service today. Know that we're working hard to reverse long-standing infrastructure needs and developing the next capital program to balance existing needs while building for the future. We're leaving no stone unturned, and thank you. That concludes my report.
Any comments or questions for Phil? I just wanted to add one piece. I know it was in the first picture, which was the new Wyandanch Station building and everything that went with that. That is a beautiful addition to a very vibrant community, and the railroad was a partner in that with the county and the town and the community, and that has opened up that entire station and that entire area. So I want to thank the railroad for its assistance in that regard. I know it wasn't easy, but it was done. So thank you. Any other questions or comments on that? If not, safety report from the railroad?
Good morning. Our safety report can be found on page 39 of your book, and we're reporting on our safety performance through the end of August. Just some program highlights that I wanted to bring to your attention. In partnership with MTA Police, our TRACS program reached over 67,700 participants through the end of August. And in September, we launched our 3rd annual safety contest for school districts within our school systems within our catchment area. This program has proved highly successful for engaging with community and really getting young people engaged at a very young age about the hazards and how to safely navigate through our system. So we're looking forward to all the contest entries, which are due by December 15th, and we look forward to announcing the winners again in January of 2019. In addition, slip, trips, and falls continues to be the biggest driver of employee injuries. And at our Safety Focus Day in September, we really made a concentrated effort to focus on housekeeping. In addition to providing a checklist and encouraging employees to take the time to actively survey and enhance their workplace during the Safety Focus Day, we also have launched a contest because we know that there's a lot of work groups and locations out there that take great pride in their work locations and how they manage their workloads, and we really want to recognize those individuals and work groups to help promote the idea that if you're keeping your environment free of debris and hazards, that's a fantastic way of promoting safety and enhancing safety performance. We have a safety committee meeting later this afternoon. I'm sure we'll talk more about the safety performance across all the agencies, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions? Chuck?
Ms. Evinghausen, we have an increase in train collisions. Could you tell me why?
So the 3 instances that you're seeing in 2018 were 3 cars abandoned on the tracks for various reasons. So these cars either slid because of weather instances or because of the car being disabled. So those collisions are actually collisions between a train and an abandoned car.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much. Metro North, Kathy?
Good morning, everybody. I want to start actually by recognizing some arrivals and some departures, but the departures first. As you may know, because we talk about it a fair amount, we are losing a lot of people to retirement. We're expecting to lose 1/3 of our workforce to retirement in the next 5 years. So I don't talk to you about every retirement because there are so many, but there are certain people that I feel need to be honored as they leave because of their service to the railroad. The first of these is Walter Berger. Walter, would you stand up, please? As you can tell from his haircut, Walter Berger is a former Marine, and he has served Metro North with tremendous distinction for 32 years, most recently as the head of the Stations and Facilities Group in the Track and Structures Department. So I didn't know, I don't think, until I actually looked at the script, what the name of Walter's group was, because we refer to them as Walter's Guys. Walter's Guys do everything on the railroad, and this is largely invisible to you, but whenever there's a station improvement, a facilities improvement, the people that we call upon are Walter's Guys. Neil, Walter's Guys, did the recent improvements at Garrison Station. They're going to be doing the upcoming roof work at Cold Spring and Garrison. He leads by example and has earned the respect and admiration of everybody at Metro North that he has touched. Last year, I nominated Walter for the Customer Service Award for his exemplary customer service, both in terms of his care to customer facilities, but also his care to employee facilities. He is one of those people who will not be replaced, and we will miss him terribly. So I want to thank Walter for his service. So the second person I want to honor today is Jim McCormick. Now, Jim gets to stand up. Jim, I think you have seen before. Jim has been our Director of Operations Planning and Analysis since August of 2016. Jim started with Metro North back in 1984 as a block operator in the various towers of GCT, and since then has been integral in supporting the railroad's service recovery efforts and is one of the key players in our emergency management task force. So every time there's a storm or a tree is down, Jim is one of the key players in the Situation Room, trying to decide, which trains we should run, what schedule we should run. Jim is a key player in those decisions. He has overseen the most significant service improvement program in the railroad's history and has been the key player in the reshaping of our scheduling processes. He was a member of the team that received the Team Excellence Award for Yankees East 153rd Street Station and for the Port Jervis Line Tropical Storm Irene Recovery Project. Jim's replacement has been selected, Ben Cornelius, who had a long and very distinguished career at Amtrak, and we're lucky to have Ben. But now we have Ben and Jim, and in a couple of days we'll only have Ben, and we will miss you terribly, Jim, and we thank you for your service. Next, I want to announce the promotion of Tom Mitchell. Tom Mitchell has been appointed to VP of Customer Service and Stations. He's been acting in this position since April when Sue Doring was promoted to the Executive Vice President position. In his former role as Director of Customer Communications and Technology, Tom was responsible for managing the Customer Communications Center, including the social media and call centers, all customer-facing technology, customer relations, and the customer advocate role. Now, Tom is also 1984. Tom joined the railroad in 1984 as a ticket agent and block operator and has been a central figure in many customer service and customer communications initiatives over the years, including deployment of cellular LCD screens, implementation of train time, and the establishment of the 24/7 Customer Communications Center. So I want to congratulate Tom on this appointment and also note to this committee that going forward every month we're going to have a customer service report as part of our regular agenda. It's something that both Long Island, I think, and New York City Transit are doing, and it's an important initiative, I think. So Tom, congratulations, and would you like to deliver your first report?
Okay, today we want to talk about our Customer Service Appreciation Awards. And in conjunction with the National Customer Service Appreciation Week, which is the first week of October, first full week of October every year, Metro North also holds a Customer Service Appreciation event in October. Like the National Customer Service Week, we celebrate customer service and the importance of the people who serve and support customers on a daily basis. As our product is a service, which is train service for the people of our region, we stress that all employees are providing customer service no matter what job they perform. This includes not only frontline employees, but machinists, electricians, track workers, etc. And we underscore that all employees have an impact on the customer experience. And to that end, a group of customer service employees, as well as senior leaders, visit every maintenance facility, transportation crew base, ticket offices, and other headquarters, and thank employees for their contribution to customer service during the month of October. And that concludes with a Customer Service Appreciation Awards ceremony that's held at Vanderbilt Hall in Grand Central. Award winners are nominated by their peers, and the committee selects the winners who have demonstrated exemplary customer service in 2018, whether it be internal or external. This year we have 10 individual awards and a group award. These employees represent transportation, maintenance of way, maintenance of equipment, capital training, legal, and customer service in stations. And this is true to form of our message that all employees contribute to customer service at Metro North. Thank you.
Now I am actually very excited to pivot and unveil our new strategic plan, which we're calling Way Ahead. As you sit down, you should have our booklets, which sort of lays out the priorities, lays out the expectations for this program. Essentially, what Metro North wants to do through this program is to set the standard for safety, reliability, and innovation in the delivery of excellent customer service. It builds upon our existing strategic plan. About 2.5 years ago, we developed a strategic plan that was largely an internal exercise. Now we are rebranding, refocusing it to make it a more customer-facing exercise. So what we want to do first is actually play a video that was developed by the MTA in-house staff. Then I have a PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to go through, and I can answer any questions that you might have. So let's play the video first.
I currently ride the Hudson Line into work.
When I come from Brooklyn, I actually come into Grand Central. I get on the Harlem Line.
I commute on the New Haven line from New Haven to Grand Central.
I've been riding Metro North for all 20 years.
So I ride the train every day. You know, to work in the morning, I ride it at home every night. Riding the system every day, I have a real insight in terms of what our customers expect, where we meet their expectations, and where we have more work to do. Part of my job now that I'm in this position is to be the face of Metro North and to be the person that customers know is looking out for them.
I am proud to be a construction engineer. I work very tirelessly.
What I like best about my job is interacting with employees.
Making improvements to the infrastructure is something that I enjoy.
It's a great feeling helping somebody and seeing their smile, especially.
I'm most proud of being able to follow my mother's footsteps. She was a conductor for Metro North from 1978 to about 2015.
We actually are a family more than employees. We're proud to do the job that we do every day.
It's such an amazing honor to be at the head of such a wonderful organization. We're consistently considered a leader in a lot of ways, and so you continually need to challenge yourself to put together practices and programs to be able to improve the way you deliver service to your customers. The region is growing. The entire region is supposed to get another 2 million people over the course of the next 15, 20 years. How are we going to be able to serve the people who move into our region? How are we going to have the safe infrastructure? Now, what kind of trains are these people going to ride on? How are we going to be able to respond to the demographic trends that are going to challenge us to be able to continue to deliver service reliably?
So part of the Way Ahead program is to address customer issues and provide better technology, better access to stations, provide cleaner and safer environments.
One of the initiatives that I'm excited to work on as part of our Way Ahead plan is focused on our people. It's to attract, retain, and hire individuals in order to stabilize Metro North's workforce.
There's a lot of maintenance work that needs to get done. There's a lot of platform rehabilitation that we need to do.
The goal with Way Ahead is to inform the customer of planned projects that we have and any service disruptions in order for us to maintain the infrastructure in a state of good repair.
A large part of what Way Ahead is about, how do we position ourselves to be able to continue to grow, evolve, and meet the evolving customer expectations?
Before moving on to the PowerPoint, I just want to thank Joe Chan, Jisoo Kim, Andrew Cashin, and Nicholas Cienci, who worked very, very hard on this video. It was really a labor of love. They are incredibly talented people, so I really want to thank them for their work in putting this together. So there's the PowerPoint. So we're going to run through essentially what our mission and our vision is for the railroad, as well as our strategies and the deliverables that we associate with those strategies in terms of bringing about this program. So our mission, as you see here, is to be a safe, reliable, and efficient railroad providing regional mobility and excellent customer service. And we're going to realize our mission and our vision through the following strategies, and we're going to discuss each of those in turn. So why don't we just go to the next slide, Mark? We're doing this all in the context of changing ridership and ever-evolving customer expectations. So since the advent of Metro North in 1983, our ridership has increased significantly, as has the frequency of train service. And ridership has changed. No longer is the typical rider somebody who gets on in Westchester and goes to their job in the city during the peak hour. We have significant reverse peak ridership now that there's been tremendous growth in industries where it's not a traditional 9-to-5 job. We have tremendous growth in the off-peak. We've had tremendous growth on the weekends. This all happens at a time where our customer expectations are increasing exponentially. We blame a lot on the advent of social media, but I do think that it has changed customers' expectations with respect to the timeliness of information, the completeness of information. We have tried to respond to that in terms of the creation of a 24/7 social media unit. But we don't know what's next in terms of technology, so we need to be nimble and proactive in terms of figuring out what our customers' expectations are and striving to meet those expectations. So Way Ahead is focused on 3 priorities. It's very basic, but it's really fundamental to how we think about our mission. So our first, of course, is our customers. They are the very reason that Metro North exists. The second priority is our infrastructure. That's our trains, our stations, our bridges, our communication, our signals, our powers, our yards, our shops. And the third is, the thing that makes it all go. It's our people. Our people are our greatest resource, and they deliver excellent service every day, and they tie this all together. We have 3 core principles that drive all of our initiatives. Safety, it rests at the heart of all that we do. Integrity, because we need to maintain the public's confidence in our decisions, and the public needs to know that we are making decisions responsibly based on good information, and that we are striving to be honest in terms of how we present our information. I think they need to trust that we are spending our dollars wisely and in connection with priorities that reflect their needs and the needs of the region. And innovation, we need to think differently in terms of how we do business. That is what our public expects, and that is what we're going to strive to do through this plan. So first priority, we will continue to put customer and employee safety first. We do that through a variety of different initiatives. We're going to expand our TRACS program, which stands for Together, Railroads and Communities Keeping Safe. This is our free community outreach program that's designed to educate and promote rail safety. We won the 2018 APTA Gold Safety Award. Every year we strive to reach 100,000 people, and we have already reached 94,000 this year, so we are well on our way to reaching our goal. We have already partnered with Ways to improve safety at railroad crossings. I'm actually going to defer to Justin in the safety report. He's going to talk a little bit about that. We've already enhanced our grade crossings, and we have an ongoing project to install emergency signs and lighting in the Park Avenue Tunnel and the Grand Central Terminal. Lighting improvements include the restoration and upgrade of Park Avenue Tunnel lights to LED lighting, increased lighting and battery backup at emergency exits, a communication link between alarm boxes in the Park Avenue Tunnel to the GCT Fire Brigade. We're replacing aluminum third rail in the tunnel on all 4 tracks, and we're going to be putting glow-in-the-dark signs in the Park Avenue Tunnel beginning this winter. We are in the process of identifying stations that will be getting security cameras as an interim step for the installation of the full CSI program of improvements. And we are in the process of identifying and expanding our safety programs. So we will be launching improved roadway worker and roadway worker in charge training programs in the beginning of the year. And we will be piloting a peer-to-peer safety program at the end of this year. We are continually on the lookout for opportunities to improve our safety training programs. We have a lot of young people coming in, as I indicated a little while ago. We have tremendous turnover, and a lot of our senior employees are leaving. So we need to be constantly on the lookout for opportunities and weaknesses, frankly, in terms of our existing training programs, so that we can make sure that our new employees have both the tools and the training to be able to work safely in their environments. Whoops, there we go. We want to improve our customers' day-to-day experience. So we will be launching an ambassador program at our busiest stations. By the end of this year, we expect to have ambassadors at White Plains, Fordham, Harlem 125th Street, and Stamford. We're going to be streamlining station management, including a new customer service station ownership model and reorganization of station departmental functions. That includes custodians, ticket sellers, TVM technicians, and bus operators. When I say bus operators, this is in charge of the emergency bus operations, under the leadership of a single point of contact. And we expect to be implementing that new ownership model by the beginning of 2019. One of the other initiatives will be improving our station and track cleanup programs. So in terms of station cleanup, we want to restructure our custodial forces to give us greater ability to deploy our forces to busy stations, a little bit more nimbleness in terms of how we deploy those forces to make them better able to respond to conditions at some of the outlying stations. In terms of the right-of-way cleanup, we are identifying hot spots in the Bronx and in Lower Westchester, and we are trying to work collaboratively wherever we can with local community groups. We are also looking to partner with small business mentoring contractors to be able to perform this work more expeditiously, and this will be ongoing throughout 2019. In addition, we have major station improvements that we'll be launching in the next several months. We've already completed a new kiss and ride, at Riverdale, as well as improvements to the station overpass there. The first phase of the major station improvement project at White Plains was completed a couple weeks back. We expect to complete all phases at the end of 2020. We will be beginning Harlem 125th Street soon with the completion of second quarter 2019. Portchester will also be completed in the second quarter of 2019, and Crestwood will be completed by the end of 2019. We are looking to improve station accessibility. This is a new priority across the MTA. We will be installing ADA elevators and ramps at Hartsdale and Scarsdale stations as part of improvements that have just recently been advertised. And we will be installing a new ADA elevator at White Plains in connection with the White Plains Station Improvement Project. Finally, we will be replacing seats and floors in more than 100 coaches in our diesel haul fleet. In addition, we're going to be improving customer communications, and a lot of the initiatives on this page are associated with our customer service initiative, which is a capitally funded project that you've heard a lot about. The first will be unveiling a new big board in Grand Central Terminal. That will happen actually in early next year, by second quarter of next year. So that will really transform the way that information is displayed in the terminal. Once the big boards are unveiled, we will thereafter be unveiling changes to the gate curtains and the departure boards, and that will occur throughout 2019. We will be unveiling more digital signs and enhanced real-time displays. The first 5 are at, actually it's not 5, the first several are Harlem 125th Street, Mount Vernon East, Riverdale, and Pelham, which will be done by spring of 2019. Larchmont, Harrison, Spuyten Duyvil, and Morris Height will be done by the end of 2019. One of the other things that we're trying to do is improve the quality of the information that our train crews are receiving, and we're doing that via the TIMS machines, the ticket information machines. So we're actually getting more information out to train crews. We've already installed a new translation app that helps train crews to communicate with customers. And we will be doing more push alerts to train crews about service-related issues, including information about connecting service like New York City subways, and that should all be done by the end of this year. We will also be unveiling a new public address system. This is also a CSI project. This will provide a robust system for GCT and outlying stations that will allow us to increase the frequency of our announcements and the amount of content that we can provide and the granularity of that information, like next arriving train information, safety messages. The other good thing about the new system is that it will be ADA compliant, so it will provide for synchronous audio and visual displays, and we will also have the ability to provide bilingual announcements in Spanish. We're engaged in a partnership with MTA IT and MTA Strategic Initiatives to improve cell coverage and connectivity along the right-of-way. This is an issue that we hear a lot about when we have our Connect With Us forums. We hear that people would like Wi-Fi or some greater connectivity on the trains as they do their work on the trains. People do a lot of work on the trains. They have their laptops, their tablets, and especially on the Upper Harlem and Upper Hudson lines, there are significant gaps in coverage. What we're trying to do is improve cell coverage along the right-of-way, and we're trying to make it commercially attractive for MTA. So we're actually working with Jano's group in terms of trying to partner with cell providers to make it an attractive business proposition both for the cell providers and for us in terms of the deployment of that technology along the right-of-way. It's a bit of a longer-term initiative, but we have kicked that off, and we're excited to see that moving ahead. We have also just launched the MTA app, launched in July of 2018, and we are continuing to have our Connect With Us forums. So we have one scheduled for this Thursday in Crestwood, Harrison on November 1st, and then another one in GCT on the 7th of November. Continuing to invest in our infrastructure. So we will be talking a little bit more about positive train control later on in the agenda here. We will be deploying that as aggressively as possible, and we expect to be in full compliance by the end of this year. 66 new M8 rail cars to address increasing ridership on the New Haven line. The first of those cars is expected to arrive at the end of 2019, with all cars delivered by the end of 2020. This will help with crowding conditions on the New Haven. We have already begun a procurement to replace our locomotive fleet to improve service reliability. We've talked actually a lot about the issues that we're having with our Genesis fleet, and we have a procurement on our locomotive fleet later on in the agenda today. We expect to award this procurement in the beginning of 2019, and that will go a long way towards shoring up the reliability of our locomotive fleet. Wayside Energy Storage System. This is a pilot project to address some dips in power that we have on the Upper Harlem line, and we will need to acquire some property to be able to deploy this new battery technology, but this is between Chappaqua and Mount Kisco. It'll take about 2 years to deploy this project, but it's something that we think will give us good information with respect to shoring up the power in that segment of the territory. Expanding tree trimming. Well, as we head into winter, we're already dreading the onslaught of more storms. We had a tough March and a tough May with a lot of trees that came down, especially on the Upper Harlem line. So we have already added $1 million to our tree trimming program, and we've been cutting trees aggressively throughout the territory to try to avoid having the same problems that we had earlier this year. There's a lot of trees. You can't get them all, but we're doing the best we can to identify vulnerable trees that might have the most likely impact upon our service in a storm. Another initiative that I think speaks to our desire to perform more work more efficiently is what we're calling our Smart Track program. This is an initiative that has already started. We're identifying ways to perform multiple projects in specific areas simultaneously, which means fewer and shorter track outages and less inconvenience for our customers. So we've already done this at CP 35 through 39, which is north of Harmon to roughly the Cortland area, where we fixed insulated joints, we did rail surfacing, we did tree trimming. CP 212 to CP 215, this will be accommodated in an April schedule change. We'll be doing rail, ties, mud spots, drainage, cleanup, and trees. We're trying to do as much work as possible in these segments, so we take a little pain in the short term, but if we do as much work as possible, then we don't have to go back as frequently. So we think this is an important initiative to try to get work done as efficiently as possible and restore the infrastructure to a state of good repair as quickly as possible. One example of how this has worked was an outage that we took on the Waterbury branch in early October. This enabled our train production gang to set an all-time one-day record for the installation of ties. They installed 1,161 ties in a single day, which beats our other single-day record of 1,159 ties in a single day. So it's quite an incredible amount of work that's done. So if we take these outages and do it aggressively, we can actually do quite a lot of work in terms of bring our infrastructure back. Finally, our new standard is to install heated platforms whenever we replace a deteriorated platform. So as I indicated a little while ago, we have recently advertised work to be done at Hartsdale and Scarsdale. As part of the Hartsdale and Scarsdale projects, we will be taking those platforms to the ground, and we will be replacing them with heated platforms. The expectation is that this will give the platforms a longer useful life because we will not need to dump salt on them every time that it snows. That's been a real factor in terms of the deterioration of these platforms. We will also be installing a heated platform as part of the White Plains project. It'll be the outbound platform. So we'll be taking that platform to the ground, and we will be restoring it with a heated platform. In future capital programs, we expect that we will be doing more platform restoration work, especially on the lower Harlem stations, and those stations too will be getting heated platforms when we replace the platforms. So continuing to invest in the infrastructure. The Sandy project is a project that we continue to track at CPOC. So phase 1, which is Greystone to Croton Harmon, will be complete by the second quarter of next year. And the second phase, Mott Haven to Greystone, will be completed 2 years after that, second quarter 2021. We will be replacing 1,200 power transmission poles on the upper Harlem line. This project will start in the first quarter of 2019, and it will roughly take 2 years. We will be completing the $1 billion investment in our Harmon train car maintenance facility. So we just awarded that, or we will be awarding that contract. You just approved that award last month. And we will be completing it fourth quarter of 2022. And we are improving our track infrastructure program. We are increasing our annual track production levels to replace 20 miles of rail, 50,000 ties, and 200 miles of rail surfacing every year. And we will thankfully be completing the replacement of our overhead power system. This is a catenary project that has been going on for years. The final phases of that project will finally be completed by the second quarter of next year. Finally, we do all of this through our people. Our people are the driving force behind getting all of these improvements done. And we have a number of initiatives that we have developed to support our people as they carry out this important mission. One of those is to upgrade employee facilities. It's important for both employee morale and employee productivity, and we've had a wide range of big and small improvements underway across the territory. There's a new CCO shop in New Haven. We're actually just finished the repaving of the Brewster parking lot, which had been dealing with flooding for years. We have a new training facility in Hopewell Junction. We repaired a ticket agent bathroom in White Plains. We have refurbished offices in Harlem Building 14, new stairs in Springdale. Walter's Guys did a lot of this work. This is how we show our employees that we want them to work in a safe and productive environment. So that work needs to continue and will continue. Cross-departmental rotations and mentorships. When we do focus group with our employees and when we talk to our employees, this is something that we hear about a lot. Opportunities to partner with other employees, to learn from other employees. It's critical as more employees retire for them to pass their knowledge on to other employees who are coming up through the ranks. We continue to do that through our succession planning and knowledge transfer programs. We have actually structured programs that are in place now to ensure the continuity in transitions. We have shadow positions, seed positions, and a knowledge transfer program. We're working with MTA on an agency-wide retention and employee development program to try to address some of the compensation and other issues that are making it difficult to attract people in certain professions like engineers. We lose a lot of people to the private sector, and it's a real challenge to get people who want to work here. So we're working with MTA in a coordinated strategy to try to make this an environment where people want to come and want to stay. We're working on increasing the diversity of our workforce by expanding our outreach to more high schools, trade schools, and colleges. We have job fairs throughout the territory, and we are expanding our training programs to try to promote a positive working environment for our increasingly diverse workforce. We're also expanding our health and wellness offerings for our employees. We have an initiative that we call Healthy for You. We've had employee-led walks, including a Highline walk in September. We participated in a suicide prevention walk in Mamaroneck in October. We have employee wellness fairs throughout the territory. Working with MTA, we are going to be deploying an emergency notification system by the end of the second quarter of 2019. And we're constantly engaged in a conversation in terms of how we stand up an innovation function. We're a little bit struggling with some of the budgetary constraints in terms of what that function should look like, but we have an internal task force making recommendations with respect to how best to integrate innovation in terms of how we make our decisions and how we carry out our projects. Finally, we're focusing on the future, and this is what we've talked about quite a bit in the context of the upcoming capital program. One of our priorities and one of the projects that we will be advocating for most vociferously is the replacement of the 125-year-old Park Avenue Viaduct. This will be an enormously impactful project and an enormously challenging one, but one that will be necessary to secure our ability to grow and to serve our customers as we move forward. As a corollary matter, we need to focus on the Park Avenue Tunnel and the GCT track and platform areas, including egress out of the Park Avenue Tunnel. This is important in terms of the safety and reliability of that infrastructure and something that will be required so that for GCT to continue to be the vibrant terminal that it is currently. Rolling stock will be a huge priority going forward. We've already talked a bit about the locomotives. We're going to advocate for completing the replacement of the locomotive fleet in the upcoming capital program, as well as replacing our M3 electric fleet. And in the context of our rolling stock conversation, we're evaluating the use of multi-level coaches. We are increasingly talking about and are challenged by the number of huge apartment buildings that are going up all up and down our territory. You'll see buildings going up in Yonkers, many of them. There's a lot of development going on up and down the Hudson line especially. And we need to be poised to be able to adapt to that and serve those new customers. And one of those strategies needs to be an evaluation of the rolling stock that will serve that new client base. We are in the process of identifying our new yard needs as well as new maintenance of way and material storage facilities. Our new capital program will include expansion of our Brewster yard to be able to better serve the Harlem line. There will be improved passenger stations. There will be ADA accessibility projects to better improve the ADA accessibility throughout the system. And then finally, the last two are expansion projects. Penn Station Access, which is being constructed by Capital Construction, but that will open up the Bronx to Penn Station and will also hopefully provide some additional capacity in GCT once trains are diverted over to Penn. And then for the West of Hudson customers, the construction of a midpoint yard and passing sidings, which in conjunction with our partners at New Jersey Transit, will provide the opportunity for increased service on the Port Jervis line. So the way ahead rollout. So we are excited to be able to talk more about this project. As I indicated a little while ago, we have multiple Connect With Us forum sessions planned for the next couple weeks. We have one in Crestwood on Thursday. We have one in Harrison in 2 weeks, and then another in GCT a week after that. We will be launching this also at the customer service event that Top talked about a little while ago on October 30th. We have a robust communication presence. We have a web link. This brochure that you have in front of you is going to be up online. We have a hashtag. We have progress updates that we will be presenting. We will be coming back to this committee, I would say probably in the next 5 or 6 months, to report progress on these things that we've talked about today. We need to keep this committee fully engaged and informed with respect to our progress towards these and other initiatives. We will be reporting on this in our milepost to our customers on a regular basis. We have advertisements that will be our cars, so this will be in our cars. Video ads in at our station platforms. On social media, I will actually be taking a page out of Andy Byford's book, and will be taking over our Twitter feed tomorrow and answering any questions from our customers. So I'll be on Twitter tomorrow, which is very new for me. I don't even email very much, so this is definitely a new thing for me, but that'll be tomorrow. So we are trying to blitz our customers and our employees with information about this program and why and how we are committed to improving the experience for our customers. We have work to do, but we are excited and engaged in terms of rolling out these improvements to our customers. So that concludes this presentation, but before I answer your questions, I have a lot of people to thank, because a lot of people participated in pulling this information together and pulling together the various materials, and I do want to thank them all before we get into any questions that you might have. So I want to thank Sue, who, together with Nate Gilbertson, pulled together a lot of information in terms of these speakers' notes. I want to thank the entire staff of Corporate and Public Affairs, led by Mark Mannix. Barbara Sarsa has put together this book. She did amazing work in terms of putting together the graphics and putting together the presentation, so I want to thank Barbara. I want to thank Bob Wassinger, who put together the car cards, which are going to be deployed quickly. Ben Kaplan from MTA actually helped with some of the text for the brochure, and John McKay actually helped in putting together some of the concepts for the car card. So I want to thank everyone, and if I forgot somebody, I apologize. But it really has been a tremendous group effort, and I really want to thank everybody for all their hard work in terms of putting this presentation together. And now I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions? Neil?
Thank you. Kathy, and sorry, my voice is a little weak today. Sorry about that. Kathy, a very thoughtful presentation, and it warms my heart, as I am also, as a board member, a daily rider twice a day, 5 days a week. I have 3 questions. I'll just list them, and then you can answer them in your way. One is a sort of marketing question. The second is a financial question. The third is a governance question. The marketing question, is this a framing of everything we're already doing in Metro North capital and operating, or are there specific pieces of this that we should see that are outside of the normal operations? That's question one. Let me just, and then you can do with what we want. Second, clearly tied to that, what is the specific, since we're just looking at this now, what's the operating expense and or the capital expense you're associating with this that you want us to think about? And third, from a governance perspective, how do you want us as a board to gauge its success? I generally am not a big fan of marketing messages. I'm a fan of a program with metrics, especially as a board member. I don't know how we're doing, so I won't know how we're doing. So can you give us some advice about the KPIs for this? Thank you.
So can you hear me? Yeah. So in terms of the first, is this a rebranding or is this new stuff? It's a little bit of both, to be honest with you. I mean, there's certain stuff in here that we have already started. So an example of that would be tracks. I mean, that is something that's already underway. But I think for purposes of this program, I think is an important thing to talk about, because I think it does evince our continuing commitment to customer safety. So there's things like that that are already out there, CSI initiatives. There's things that we've already talked about. But I think as we unveil them and as those deliverables come online, I think it's important to talk about those in the context of this overall commitment to the customer experience. There are also new things in here. We specifically developed and talked about Smart Track, for example, in the context of this overarching program. We wanted to show to our customers that we are thinking about how to both improve the infrastructure in an aggressive way, but also deliver those projects in a way that is more thoughtful. So they may be be more sort of initially impactful because we're taking outages in a very aggressive way, but we hope it enables us to be able to deliver those improvements more efficiently and then not to have to come back as frequently to do that work. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag in terms of talking about stuff already underway as well as putting out there new initiatives that we think pull together what our various corporate priorities are. Money. So the capital priorities will be discussed in the context of the capital program conversation, which will be done under the auspices of MTA, and those conversations I think are going to be kicked off, shortly. We've been working with the MTA capital folks in terms of putting together the numbers and the priorities and how we want to sort of group those. And obviously there's a board-led vetting process of those priorities given the given the demands on the dollars, and that's going to be an ongoing conversation. And I can't remember what your third thing was. Metrics. Oh, metrics. Okay, so metrics. So I tried to make the speaker's notes as granular as I could, in terms of when we expect these various initiatives to be delivered. Again, I took a bit of a page out of Phil's book and Andy's book in terms of how they delivered their corporate plans. So my expectation is that you will hold me to those dates, and I will continue to report deliverables to you on a regular basis. And as we add new initiatives to this plan, we will, that will be a transparent process, and we will, to the greatest extent possible, associate dates with those new deliverables so that you can hold us accountable for the work that we're doing. Also, I would say that some of the initiatives that are in this plan complement stuff that we already routinely report on to this committee. So, for example, this month we have our quarterly track program as an information item, and we talk about, sort of similar to what Phil talked about in his remarks this morning, how many ties and switches and rail and all that stuff. So we are happy to talk about those more specifically because that report, frankly, is really key to showing you what we are doing to get the infrastructure into a state of good repair. So with these sort of special way ahead reports that we'll be doing sort of periodically, as well as some of the regular reports that we do every month, I think that you will get a good sense as to what our process is and what our progress is, and you'll be able to hold us to account if you feel like we're slipping.
Chuck?
Kathy, I would like to join in complimenting you on your forward-looking programmatic initiatives that in the long term will stand the Metro North in good stead. I hate to be the Grinch that stole Christmas, but I look at the September data and it bothers me. In terms of on-time performance, the overall is materially down. In virtually every area of peak, it's down, page 189. The areas show that unscheduled engineering is a problem. Maintenance of equipment, the problems causing delay were 3 and 4 times greater. In the one area after another, September was not great. Maybe a disaster, but not great. My point is, I have 3 questions for you. 1, when can we expect a turnaround? And I don't mean week, and I don't necessarily mean month. But what time next year or the year after can the riders, and I am one of those, and I do appreciate the better performance both on Metro North, Hudson Line, and at the Riverdale station, although it's a bit of a disaster at the moment. Let me make the point. When can we expect a turnaround is number 1. Number 2, you indicated that there is a significant amount of new construction along the right-of-way in various parts, particularly along the Hudson Line. And I wonder, has any thought been given to revenue capture for all of the multiple dwellings going up along that area by way either of a tax assessment or some increase in real estate taxes to make this affordable, to make the changes doable? And that's the second question. And the third one is, you've indicated that there is a relative shortage of personnel and it is hard to attract. And so the third one is the tough one. Has any thought been given to giving long overdue salary increases?
Okay, so number one, in terms of the performance, John may want to step in, but we talked about this a little bit, I think, in the July committee meeting. I think bottom line in terms of our performance over the past couple months, we bit off a little bit more than we could chew with respect to our infrastructure program. We saw a lot of work going on the Hudson line. I'm happy to report that our Hudson line performance actually bounced up quite a bit from August to September. We continue to struggle a bit on the New Haven line. One of the things that we're trying to do is be quite a bit more proactive in terms of planning our 2019 infrastructure program so that we're a little bit more clear-headed in terms of what we can properly absorb without compromising the reliability of the service to our customers. So all the work needs to be done, but we're in the business of providing reliable service to our customers, and it's a constant balance. So while as I said, we remain completely committed to getting the necessary infrastructure work done, we need to do so in a way that preserves our ability to operate reliably. So we are already in the process of planning out our 2019 infrastructure work. We are finishing up our 2018 program, so most of that will finish up before Thanksgiving. We are now in the middle of slippery rail season, or basically the beginning of slippery rail season, so we will see, here and there some delays related to that. Veronica saw some this morning. But we are hoping that with our plan to be a bit more proactive in terms of how we plan infrastructure work, that we will have a better 2019 or better production season in 2019 than we did in 2018. We also have an action plan with respect to the reliability of our locomotive fleet. That's been a real issue. It was a big issue on the Hudson line this summer. So we are working together very proactively to try to address the problems in our fleet so that we don't have those fleet reliability issues that we had this summer. So it is a work in progress. We meet every week on our service reliability. It was a concern that obviously kind of caught me by surprise a little bit this summer because it was really an unwelcome and problematic diminution in our performance. But we are very, very focused in getting things back on track. Your second question, I think, was about the like tax increment financing, and yeah. So there are basically two kinds of projects. Projects that rely upon property from us to be able to move forward. And when you have those kinds of TOD projects, we're very engaged with those developers. Unfortunately, there's a whole lot of other projects that don't occur on our property, but just kind of nearby, where we frequently don't hear about those until they're already going up. So I'm sort of looking over at my partner in crime here, Mr. Lieber, in terms of how we get at some of those issues. But it is a problem because some of these huge developments go up and we don't even know that they're going up until they've already got a shovel on the ground.
I'm suggesting, at least, forgive me, Jana, is that it would be useful to start tracking the extent of the multiple dwelling construction along the various lines so that data is available if people think that that's one good way of having a sustainable financing plan.
I agree, and we are doing that in anticipation of the discussion, the legislative process, again, coming back to the concept of value capture. It's difficult to institute when there are many different small jurisdictions. The idea of a fragmented value capture approach, I think our hope is that the dialogue will lead to a discussion about something which is more regional, at least county-wide in conception. But I think your point is well taken, and we are collecting that data.
So people. So in terms of salaries, listen, I mean, the MTA is struggling through some budget issues right now. What I can say is that the issues that we're having with attracting and retaining talent are not unique really to Metro North or not unique to this, to the MTA family. I mean, it's an industry-wide concern. I'm happy to say that HQ is fully cognizant of the issue and has been working collaboratively with all of the agencies to try to come up with strategies for being able to attract and retain. One of the things that we're kicking off again, collaboratively with the other agencies, is a telecommuting pilot to try to make it more attractive for certain people with childcare issues or other family issues to be able to work from home. We think that that might be helpful in terms of attracting and retaining female employees who might have childcare issues, and with respect to other initiatives to be able to retain talent. There is an all-agency concerted effort going on now, which I expect we'll be reporting on in the coming months.
Randy?
Good morning. I enjoyed the report. I'm glad we joined the rest of the MTA family in doing this, and I wish everyone a lot of success. With your new engines rolling stock, I'm also guessing Metro west of Hudson is included, and I say that I don't own any stock in Siemens, full disclosure, but this locomotive, which is I've mentioned before, there's been nothing but good reports about it, and I sincerely hope this is what we're looking for. And I would like to see this time the Long Island Railroad would buy the same equipment as Metro North. I think we had a better track record with the Genesis than the stuff that the LIRR is running. So that's my thoughts on that. Thank you.
Ira?
Yeah, I just I've been looking at this for a while, and since I was going to wait, but since you did this report now, I mean, you didn't really discuss too much the, especially the electric fleet. I think it's become a concern, especially over the last few months. Actually, this year it's a concern, and even new equipment is not performing up to its goals. So there's some references to it in the thing, but I just wonder how focused we are on that. Is there some issue with the shops, or what the story is?
I'll let John answer that in terms of the current fleet. What I would say with respect to the M3 fleet, the expectation is as part of the upcoming capital program, we will be replacing the M3 fleet. We had done a refurbishment of that fleet a few years back, which is why we were able to get a little bit more work out of it than the Long Island was. But we are focused on replacing that fleet as part of the upcoming capital program. In terms of the performance of our current fleet, a lot of the issues are PTC related, and I'll let John speak to that.
Absolutely. It's a good news, bad news story to remind the committee that back in January, Metro North started implementing civil speed enforcement, which was a significant phase of the PTC program. Adding that additional system onto all of our rolling stock exposes us to having additional failures. So there's been a 30% decrease in the MDBF of all of our fleets, specifically through the implementation of PTC. Now that might seem like a lot, and numerically, when you look at the numbers in hundreds of thousands of miles, it does give you that perception. When you actually look at the number of failures we have every month, the goal is to have no more than 37 failures over the 20,000 trains we operate. So when you look at it from an equipment reliability perspective on a train basis, our equipment is 99.8% reliable. But again, the drop in the actual MDBF number is directly related to running with civil speed enforcement on Metro North this year. And based on going to full PTC in 2019, we will be adjusting our MDBF goals downward.
Is that also why I noticed that the Consus compliance is off too? Is it the same? Yeah.
Consus compliance is off because, again, we have additional equipment out of service for the implementation of PTC. And on the New Haven line, as we've spoken about previously, we're actually short cars due to increased ridership, and they'll start coming end of next year.
Norman?
Yeah, I got a couple questions regarding recruitment and retention issues that Commissioner Mordler raised. First of all, regarding the represented employees, of course we bargain what we bargain and we stand by what we bargain all along. However, over the last generation, the pension has deteriorated substantially in its benefits, particularly with regard to how complete it is how soon you can get out. Now, agreed, we bargained a lot of things, but have you decided whether that is having, the pension is the chief retention tool in your human resources package. The wages are good here. It's a great job. I love the job. However, the pension is what really holds people in place, and as that has deteriorated over the years, I'm just curious as to what extent you've looked at whether that has played a factor in people fleeing the tent, so to speak. And now the other one is with regard to the managers, which of course we don't bargain for, who are, however, employees, and we all have sort of responsibilities for each other. And I'm just curious, and I don't really pay that close attention to what you pay the managers and how their how their work lives are structured. However, did you ever cut them in on the free transfer to the Transit Authority? I would suggest that that might be a cheap tool for you to offer something that the other employers can't offer, and or don't offer. And it's like I said, it's not my business whether you. A few of them I'd like you to go away anyway. So if I could choose the ones that would go away. Anyway, thank you for your time.
So in terms of your question about the pension, that's sort of an interesting observation. We haven't done a survey on that point specifically, but sort of what we're hearing is that the younger generation doesn't necessarily see that as a benefit when they first come in. It seems like the younger generation doesn't necessarily take a railroad job expecting to stay at a railroad job. Which is one of the problems. I think, again, it's not unique to Metro North or to this industry. I mean, younger people don't seem to want to stay as long. So they'll stay, they'll get good experience 3-4 years, and then they will move on. So what we've been trying to do, and I think that actually one of the initiatives through HQ is, to your point, to make sure that employees here have a good understanding of the full range of their benefits, like the total compensation package, so that when they decide whether they want to stay or go, they have a really better understanding of what the entire package is. It's not just the salary, there's all these other benefits that go along with it. We are trying to and it feels like headwinds sometimes, to push through concern that we have about younger people not staying at these jobs for as long as we would like them to, and not building up that bench that we really need, as so many of our older employees are retiring. So it's a continuing concern of ours, yes.
Susan?
I want to thank the staff for working so hard to develop a program that I think is implementable, and hopefully we can follow it carefully. I realize how much effort was put into this. I think that Kathy's comment about the granularity that she projected today is very important, and one of the things that the board would like to see is that list of dates put into a table so we can track it easily. I also suggest that the customer surveys that we do actually will tell us whether or not you're meeting some of these goals. I realize there's an advantage to using the same old customer survey time after time because we get to compare through time, but I think it's time that we refresh that concept and get in a few questions that actually pertain to this program, because that's what this board wants to see, not the same old stuff.
Yeah, no
We're
question.
trying to revise here, so let's do it all the way.
No, absolutely.
The service reliability question has me flummoxed. I know that a lot of extra time has been put on this, and I've had a number of conversations with Kathy about how to properly project what we can reasonably expect of ourselves going forward. My concern is partly from the commentary we've heard from other railroads about how their service reliability has gone down with PTC, not gone up. So I think you're facing a double-edged sword here in that you're moving into an area, both railroads, where you aren't really sure where you're going to be, and it's going to be very difficult to project that. So I think we're willing to give you some time, but we do need to see a date when we can expect improvement.
Yeah, no question. I mean, I'm sorry.
It's difficult. I have one thing to say to the board. I think that when when we ask questions about salary, we have to remember that that's not solely a management responsibility. This board has a budgetary responsibility that I think we're very good at implementing when we keep our hearts focused on our customers. I'm not convinced that we do as good a job keeping our employees in our hearts. When we make our decisions in the future, I think we need to consider both, and I have every confidence that this board has the capability to do that. We need to really focus on the budget and define different aspects of it more clearly than perhaps we have in the past, and I look forward to doing that with you. And I thank the board for the support that they've provided to Metro North in trying to get us into this new way forward. So thanks to the board as well. Thank you, Mitch.
Veronica?
I know the development of this plan has been in the works for quite some time, and I'm really glad to see everything that you all have outlined, and a huge thanks to you and the staff for really working on this. So you've talked about the public engagement, and it's very public facing, obviously. What sort of political engagement will you all embark upon over the next year? And just a complimentary point to that question. I'm really glad that you've come out with this now, well in advance of discussion of the 2024 capital program, which we know will begin, you know, it's ongoing, but in earnest, in a little less than a year. And this helps address the question that many legislators have perennially, which is, what are you doing now to improve efficiencies, to improve operations, within the existing budget? So I think that is one of the greatest values of you putting this forth now and with so much advance. So having this document, how will you, and I don't need all the details, really I just want to ensure that you have a political strategy to meet with our legislators who, as we know, have to approve or weigh in on our capital program.
No, absolutely. So, you know, through our corporate and public affairs group, we regularly have meetings with elected officials in terms of our programs, in terms of our service. So I would expect that to continue. And now that we have this program, it's all the more important for us to educate the elected officials and our stakeholders in terms of what our priorities are and what our challenges are, frankly. With respect to the capital investments, you know, we will do that, I would guess, in coordination with MTA as a whole. So I'm envisioning probably a lot of trips to Albany in our future as we, you know, refine what our capital asks are. And I expect that that will be, you know, a process that cuts across the agencies in a concerted agency-wide effort.
Any other questions? Kathy, on behalf of the entire board, we want to thank you and your entire staff for putting this together. I think it was a very, very comprehensive and efficient program. Obviously, I think on behalf of the entire board, we look forward to helping in whatever way we can on all three of the different plans, the railroad, Long Island, and New York City Transit. You know, I always talk about the issue of evaluation. How do we know we're doing better in that context? And, you know, Neil and I have talked about that a lot. There's the objective standard of each month's report. You know, the number goes up, the number goes down on a collective basis. And that is a more generic discussion. Then there's the specific discussion of how is each individual commuter feeling. And that is a much more difficult situation. And as Kathy knows, my daughter and son-in-law are daily commuters from Irvington, and that's how I will find out, as what they tell me is on, you know, happening on that line. And sometimes there's a significant difference. Phil and I have had this conversation. There's a significant difference between the number and the personal, and we need to try to make sure collectively that everybody is affected positively when the generic number goes up in that context. And that is sometimes the hardest thing to do, because in one case it's a objective number, and in the other case it's a perception issue, and many times the perception evaluation will lag the objective standard. So we hope, not only with this plan, but with all the plans that are going on in Metro and MTA, that we can have a positive impact on both, because that will be the best way we can evaluate success in that regard. With that, Metro North Safety.
Good morning. The safety report can be found on page 43. Both customer and employee lost time injuries trending better than the previous 12 months. Customer injuries are down nearly 10% and employee nearly 20%. Our community outreach program TRACS reached 8,500 individuals in August, bringing the total for the year through August to over 82,000. And as part of our TRACS program and in recognition of Fire Prevention Week, we held an interactive fire safety event in Grand Central Terminal on October 10th. We provided customers and employees the opportunity to learn about fire safety on board our trains and stations, as well as in the homes. And finally, to update the committee on our progress with Waze, currently 82 grade crossings are active with alerts, and we are working to complete the remaining 20 or so grade crossings, which we should have complete by the end of the year. That concludes the report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions on Metro North? I think it's very enlightening to see that in the safety report on both railroads this month, there's a significant decrease in both customer injuries and employee injuries, and in both cases. So that shows the tremendous amount of work everyone is doing in safety at both railroads. Chuck, did you want to add something?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Do we have any data that shows the number of incidents we have with, quote, unauthorized persons on the track, unquote?
Yes, we do.
And has that increased, decreased, remained the same? What is it?
I would say it's increased a little bit, but we work closely with our right-of-way task force and the MTA PD to address those areas.
And are there particular areas where that is true more than in others?
Whenever there is, we do identify those areas and we attempt to put fencing or other means to restrict the access whenever possible.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on that? Okay. Jano, MTA Capital Construction.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Metzger. Good to see you. Mr. Chairman, I just want to thank you for your comments about the wine dance station. That is an extraordinary new facility in a community that is rebuilding and rebuilding around the railroad as the centerpiece of its economic development and urbanization strategy. So we were proud to partner with the railroad in the creation of that new facility. I just wanted to mention that there are 3 stations along the double track territory that are coming online with their new customer amenities, platform improvements, and access improvements this week and next. Those are Farmingdale, Deer Park, and Brentwood. And again, it's been an achievement of the railroad and our organization to be able to deliver those alongside the operational improvements that double track is enabling. In light of the shortness of time, I am going to forego granularity and say that the principal thing that's going on East Side Access is we really are shifting into focus on the, and that's not the one. Why don't we put up capital construction? We're shifting into focus on systems. I was going to show you some of the progress on that, but the main thing I want to emphasize is in the wake of Bill Goodrich's retirement, which took place last month, we hired a premier safety and systems professional to run this project, and that's Rob Troop. Rob comes to us after a 30-plus year career in railroading with Amtrak, New Jersey Transit, WMATA, and most recently as the Deputy General Manager in Atlanta. So I think it's a great fit for us, somebody who can drive this project to completion. He also has a fair amount of private sector experience and was actually involved at one point in the design of the signal system for East Side Access many moons ago. So I think it's great, and we're thrilled to get Rob. But with that, I am going to skip ahead to double track because I don't want to be responsible for anything not being on time.
That's okay. We're already not on time, so
yeah, well,
it just adds to the context.
I'm trying to be a contributor here, Coach. So let's move on to the third track project, if the thing will work. Nice pictures. All right, they're good pictures, and they are, but it's no good if the thing won't move forward. Can you advance it, please? Okay. One more time. All right, guys. Okay. Third track. Contract was awarded, I think everybody knows. It was a subject of some discussion by this board back in December of 17. Currently, we're approaching the notice to proceed. There's been this limited notice to proceed period since the project began early this year, and we've been engaged in all these pre-construction activities. We're really approaching the notice to proceed. We had a groundbreaking on September 5th, and in terms of the project's innovation and I think productivity, we've installed a mile of intertrack barrier east of Westbury. That enables us to increase productivity and drive costs down, because when you have an intertrack barrier, you have less flagging required. You can maintain a different type of operation and require fewer outages. So that's, I think, very important to being able to be highly productive. We're doing a ton of brush clearing on the corridor. As everybody knows, when one of the occupational hazards of railroading for both Metro North and Long Island is trees falling and causing service delays. So we're proactively clearing all the trees on the right-of-way to make room for heavy construction, but also to eliminate that risk. Relocation of, relocation of utilities has begun at Covert Avenue, grade crossing, and New Hyde Park, as well as Urban Avenue in Westbury. These are the first two grade crossings that are going to be eliminated. Remember the tremendous problem on the remain line of people going around barriers, accidents resulting from grade crossings in that 200-plus train a day area. And we're moving forward with that one, and there's utility relocations that are going on at the other grade crossing, which is in Westbury, all making room for heavy construction. Actually, once we've redone the water mains and the sewers and so on, we've actually done that work so that that will not interfere with this grade crossing work, and the paving is actually taking place. Dry well removal, same thing. We're extending a platform in Carl Place, getting the dry wells repositioned so that the platform extension can take place, and property handovers. One of the things that I'm actually proud of is this project has so far avoided, there are 50-plus properties that need to be acquired, and we have kept the acquisition of those properties, which is traditionally a huge risk to projects when you get into condemnation disputes with owners. Remember, this is a project that's not doing any residential takings. It's part of, I think, the political coalition that made this project happen, but we needed to do some industrial and commercial properties along the right-of-way. All of them have been acquired on schedule, and it's something that I think is a huge risk mitigation for everybody. Can we advance it one, please? Noise monitoring, we're actually doing an extraordinary level of noise monitoring. I think it's a model for how to do something in a densely populated corridor. So right now we're collecting all of that base data so that we know when the work begins if there are instances where you have increases in noise that's impacting on these residential communities. So we'll be able to evaluate our effectiveness. Soil sampling is far along. So far, there's always remnants of toxic materials. None have reached levels which are indicative of the need to remediate or of any health hazard. And we continue this extraordinary level of outreach to the community, 175 meetings to date. Each of the communities along the corridor has its own ambassadors. And this is a New Hyde Park Street Fair in the visual you're seeing. There's also community meetings regularly. I'm going to invest in batteries as part of this program. We have websites, a ton of meetings. This is a public meeting at the New Hyde Park School, and there's another one visually in the Garden City. It was presentation attended by the mayor, trustees, and community members. We give general project overviews, discuss potential staging areas so people know what's coming, and respond to their questions. And so far, as I said, we actually put out an evaluation for the contractor as part of their compensation, how they do in this evaluation. And it's early days, and we only got under 100 responses, but so far the contractor got something like a 90% rating, and all of us, obviously together as a team, got that high rating. So I'm sure there'll be challenges to come, but so far I think we're doing a reasonably good job. One other point, since we talk about KPIs, this is, per my discussion with you, Mitch, so far, we do the KPIs for this project generally in CPOC. So I'm going to continue to keep you updated on what's going on. But for those metrics and the IOC's evaluation of our progress, that usually takes place in CPOC. Thank you.
Any questions? Chuck?
Road restoration. Road restoration done by Con Edison in the city of New York. As anyone who walks a street in the city of New York is papering over. And it really causes the public to be very, very down on work. What I would ask you to do is to pay particular attention to whoever does the road restoration, that they do a thorough job. I can assure you, go to any Con Ed restoration site and return 6 months later, and you'll see the real degradation because it was done badly. People hate that.
Thank you. Point taken.
Any other questions for Jano? If not, we'll move on to the police report. Chief?
Good morning. Well, year to date, total major felony crime system-wide is down by 8 crimes, 187 versus 195. On the Long Island Railroad, year-to-date crime is even at 76 crimes. In Metro North, year-to-date crime is down by 1. That's 103 versus 104. Now, system-wide for the month of September, major felonies are up by 4 crimes, 21 versus 17. In the Long Island Railroad, for the month, we were up by 7 crimes, 12 versus 5. 2 are robberies, both resulted in arrests. 2 were assaults, also both resulting in arrests, and 8 grand larcenies. Metro North for the month, major felonies were down by 2, 8 versus 10. That's 1 robbery, 3 assaults, 2 at 125 Street and 1 Beacon, all involving assaults on police officers, and 1 grand larceny auto at Purdy's, and 3 grand larcenies. For my hate crime report, year to date, there are 23 crime reports versus 20. 20 were graffiti, criminal mischief, 2 were aggravated harassment, and 1 was a misdemeanor assault. Last year, 2017, we had 29 incidents. That concludes my crime report.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for the Chief? Veronica?
Good morning, Chief.
Good morning.
On page 53, there's the agency-wide arrest classification. So this actually may be a question better suited, I think, for transit. You'll let me know. But I noticed under warrant arrest, those arrests have increased significantly for 2018, and as we know, the year is not yet complete, over 2017. Would you speak to, and again, if this is better suited for transit, because these arrests may have been made in transit, I'm happy to hold it until then.
No, these were arrests that occurred on the railroad.
Okay.
So 2018, we made 103 arrests on a warrant versus 38 in 17. Well, that's a direct result of our increased engagement in the most busiest commands like Grand Central or Penn. 56 of the 103 arrests on warrants were at Penn or Grand Central. That just shows the engagement on our officers. When someone has a summons and they run and a warrant is revealed, that's a warrant arrest. So I look at it as a positive result of the engagement that we have out there.
Chuck?
I congratulate you on those arrests and keep it up. I have a problem with respect to the hate crimes. I've noticed that in some areas they're down, in others they're a little up. But 23 hate crimes this year, predominantly against people of color and Jews. That's unacceptable behavior. And I'd like to ask you two questions in that regard. One, to what extent, if any, do you track the prosecutive action that follows when you are able to apprehend? And number two, are you finding an increased ability, decreased ability, or just the same ability to effectuate good arrests for these hate crimes?
The arrests that are made, and unfortunately this year we have 2 incidents that resulted in arrests, are followed up by the district attorneys, and I'm happy with the conclusion or the convictions of those 2 individuals.
All right.
The other incidents involved a much more difficult prosecution because we don't have an arrest because it was graffiti. So those are ongoing investigations. When we do make an arrest on an incident such as criminal mischief, you know, we vigorously enforce and work with the DAs to get as strong a punishment that we could get. You know, I guess the most prolific incident was the Penn Station incident, where we did work with the DA. We did have an individual under arrest, and he was brought to justice. When we do have an arrest on a graffiti, we will work with the DAs, you know, vigorously.
Chief, I understand and compliment you on your sensitivity in connection with graffiti. I will just tell you that the graffiti of 38 became the Holocaust of 39, and that is personal experience, personal knowledge. Graffiti is the first sign of a person lacking in civility, understanding, and humanity. And those folks ought to be dealt with as the mamzas they are.
Agreed. And every one of the MTA PD officers understand that and agree with that.
Thank you, Chief. We'll now move to agency information items. We have in there, obviously, the 2019 preliminary budget for those people who, for our public comment period. On page 62 is the homeless outreach report. I don't know whether we want to engage in any conversation. Are there any questions about the homeless outreach report? I'll leave it at that for the moment. Does anybody have any questions? It is there in that regard on page 62. And obviously, even I can figure out there is a seasonal difference in relation to the numbers. They go up and down depending on the weather. And, you know, obviously we're moving into the fourth quarter of this year, and that will have an impact on the numbers as the weather gets colder at both and the numbers at both Grand Central and Penn. If not, we will move on to the PTC report, which is on page 67. Are there any questions in relation to that? Randy.
What percentage of the equipment, we heard earlier that there was cars out of service for installation of PTC. I mean, how far are we? I can see here, but are we like really near the end of having to put the equipment in?
Yes, we're approaching the end. We expect to have all the PTC equipment in by late November.
Neil?
Thank you. This may be for you. This may be more for you, Kathy. Thank you very much. You have, as an organization, moved mountains to try and bring PTC to implementation. I would say that clearly if we started earlier, we wouldn't have to have moved mountains, but here's where we are. And you are trying to make this happen against the federal requirements at the end of the year. I have mentioned many times here in this meeting, in this forum, and others, that the rider cares, though, less about the implementation of the federal guidelines and more about the full implementation of PTC in all its components, knowing that we do have some much further along than others. I did not see in the materials a date or discussion of when we would have a plan in front of us for the full implementation of PTC and all its components. Can you please give us some guidance as a board as to when we will see the implementation planning for its full implementation, not the federal guidelines? Thank you.
So both railroads are now in the process of putting together the alternative schedule, which will show where and when PTC will be cut in after the close of the compliance period, December 31st of 2018. I think both railroads are on a comparable time frame in terms of the preparation of that alternative schedule, which we expect to have done mid-November or so. It will be filed in connection with an update to both of the railroads' implementation plans. So we are continuing to seek guidance from FRA in terms of what needs to be in that in that alternative schedule, and I expect that we'll be able to share it with the committee and with the PTC working group in the course of the next few weeks.
Sorry, one follow-up.
Go right ahead.
Could you please, with that plan, also let this board and that working group know what incremental costs we may need to bear to make that happen and what options we may have to accelerate that implementation?
Sure.
Thank you.
Ira?
Yeah, just one last question about PTC. I'm concerned with as well as the other issues that Commissioner Zuckerman brought. The passenger impacts that we may see in the coming months. It'd be interesting to see what they are. Also, that we should get out to the passengers that this is what we expect to happen. We may expect some passenger impacts, maybe lengthening of schedules, I don't know, but something like that would be good to get out there by November or December to let our passengers know.
Yeah, no question. I mean, I think that we've been talking certainly internally about the need to educate our customers that this is not CBTC. I think some people think that this will actually make trains go more quickly when that has not been the case with the railroads that have already deployed it. So we are already in the process of adjusting our 2019 schedules. Actually, it's something I should have raised before with respect to the infrastructure program. We're already in the process of thinking about our April and then another schedule in June of next year to be able to reflect not only the infrastructure work that we will be performing, but also the impact of PTC. So I completely agree with you. I think over the course of the next several months, we need to make it clear that it will have an impact. I mean, SEPTA has counseled us that it does affect performance, and we fully expect that it will, and I completely agree that we need to make sure that people understand that.
How long, now, you know, in both railroads are going to have one segment in revenue operation as part of the federal requirements. How long, and understanding the customer impact of that, how long do you think it will take us to understand how long it will be, either on Port Washington or on your segment, as to what the impact is going to be on the customer in relation to the issue of reliability and safety, but also speed during that period of time?
I don't know that we know that yet.
Because one of the goals of having one part in revenue service is to determine what's the impact on that line before we get to all the other lines, so that we'll have experience and not assumptions.
Absolutely, and we don't know how long we will be in RSD4. The one bit of late breaking news that is not in the report is that Metro North received its conditional approval of its RSD application on Friday, which is very good news, and there are a number of conditions that need to be satisfied before we can actually commence RSD, but we're still on schedule to commence it in November. So that was a bit of good news that happened after this book went to print. But to answer your question, I don't think we know yet because we're not in RSD yet. I think that once we start to see the results and see how long, how things are going, maybe let's talk in maybe 6 weeks. And we'll have a better sense in terms of what the impacts are, both with respect to the pilot line operations and then sort of more globally once we start to cut it in elsewhere across the territory.
Right. Okay. And could you, in both cases we have Amtrak issues. in Metro North, we have New Jersey Transit issues, which affect, could you both give us a little update as to where we are in both of those discussions?
Sure. So New Jersey Transit is probably the easier conversation. New Jersey Transit, they gave us everything that we need on the Port Jervis, and we are in the process of installing it, and we have a high degree of confidence that that will be done by the end of the year. So that's not going to be an issue on the Port Jervis. On the Pascack Valley, that's in their IP. And they have full responsibility for the Pascack Valley, and everything is in on the Pascack Valley, so they're fully compliant on the Pascack Valley. So New Jersey Transit, we're in good shape with them. Amtrak, and then I'll let Phil jump in terms of the Amtrak issues. On Amtrak, we are in the process of doing interoperability testing with them on our pilot line segment, because they do pass over that segment between Tarrytown and Croton Harmon, and we expect to be doing that, early November?
November 2nd.
November 2nd is our next interoperability test with Amtrak. And we have a high degree of confidence that that will go well based upon some of the test results we've had with CSX. The other issue that we have with Amtrak is the issue that we've called this boundary issue, where they actually come onto our territory. So it's in New Haven, it's in Poughkeepsie, in New Rochelle. So where they pass over into our territory, there's an issue with respect to safety servers communicating with each other, and the ability to have a temporary speed restriction kind of carry over when they pass into our territory. That's sort of one of those quintessential interoperability issues that may be a little bit more challenging to tackle. We're still trying to figure out the schedule for resolving those issues, but I will say that Amtrak is fully engaged in terms of dealing with those issues as well.
Okay. Long Island?
Yes, for Long Island, we already started also interoperability testing with Amtrak. Similar to Metro North, we also have boundary issues, mainly in and out of Penn. And we're already working with them to make sure that we can read their transponders and vice versa. But as far as the implementing TSRs, that work is well on its way. We're working with them. They're going to a new safety service solution, so that'll be part of our alternative schedule, and should not have any bearing on our ability to get into a revenue service demonstration on the Port Washington line by the end of the year.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions on PTC? Okay. We have information. Oh, Chuck, I'm sorry. I didn't see your hand. I'm sorry.
Just a fact question.
Go ahead.
As I understand it, New Jersey Transit has the responsibility for doing a portion of the Port Jervis line or the like. Am I right?
They're providing the hardware. We're actually doing the installations on the wayside.
Oh, we're doing it?
Yes, we're doing
Good.
the wayside installations, yeah.
Thank you.
We have much more confidence that way. I think that's a fair statement, right, Susan? Yeah. I agree. Okay, we'll go to information items. There is from Long Island Railroad, November timetable change and track work programs, and the report on the M9 procurement. Phil, I don't know if you wanted to add anything on either of those two items?
No, we have two Long Island Railroad information items in the book this month, November track work program, timetable change, and an update on the M9 procurement that we'll present later at CPOC this afternoon. But we can answer any questions that you have about these reports.
Randy?
Yeah, one quick question. The M9s, you mentioned last month that it was going to be in May when the first train will go in service. I mean, why so long?
Well, we've been working very closely with Kawasaki, the builder, and there's been a number of issues with regards to ensuring the quality and the safety of the trains, and some design issues that we're working through. And then there was an issue that we'll talk a little bit more about with regards to their freight operator and how the trains were handled, and some damage that was incurred that those trains will be completely restored to new. Kawasaki has accepted responsibility for that. But all of those have factored into the schedule. We're working closely and aggressively to try and move that forward because we know how important rolling stock is. But right now it's May of 2019.
Chuck?
Two questions. I understand that the M9s have been delayed a total of 3 years between now and the time of delivery. Is that correct?
Jim, is it?
The contract award was scheduled for January 2011. And they're coming in 2019. They were supposed to take 3 years. Now it's 6 years.
3 years of design,
Okay, so they're 2 years late. Do you have a liquidated damages clause? And do you plan on availing yourself of it? I would like the board to be advised before it is finalized. If you have that long a period of delay, and this is not the first Kawasaki delay, the board has a right to know that people ought to get paid for it. No more. You can't do this stuff to people. Second, with respect to the M9, it's my understanding that there are new FRA regulations coming down the road or already in effect in terms of the composition of the cars, allowing for more lightweight cars and the like as they have in Europe. Is that correct? Phil, let me make it.
Let me just say this.
Come to my point. If in fact there are regulations being promulgated somewhere within a matter of months, does it, and this is a judgment you must make, does it behoove the Long Island Railroad to delay exercising options so that those cheaper and more efficient cars can be utilized rather than the cars that we contemplate potentially ordering on option? You decide that, but I think we need to know.
Let me just say this. Right now, rolling stock continues to be an issue for us with regards to availability of them. So delaying the existing order that we have is not something that I'm open to at this point, because every car that goes down, we need to rush it back into service quickly. We saw what happened earlier in this year with regards to when cars go out and what it does to service. With regards to future procurements, we are challenging ourselves and we're challenging industry, and we're looking at new ways to procure different fleet. So that will be part of how we go forward. But right now, with regards to the M9s and being able to get them sooner rather than later is something that is critical to us. So Commissioner Merdler, certainly understand if there's new regulations that allow us to find different ways, we're going to incorporate that. And if it makes sense to modify something existing, we would. But at the same time, I do need to get fleet.
I cannot disagree with you. All I'm suggesting is that the public has a right to know, in the interests of full transparency, that what we are doing is expediting so that the customer need is fulfilled, but there's a price to be paid for that. And I think they need both sides of that story.
Ira, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up on that. I think the M9 already we're receiving, there's no way to change that would be, it's just not as prohibitive. But I think the 9A, the M9A procurement, which is supposed to begin next year, might be eligible if there's some, some modification we could make if there is truly FRA updates the regulations on crashworthiness of the equipment. That's something we should take under advisement, not rush. I think that's what the commissioner meant. I think that's starting the beginning of next year. Would be good to see if the board could be briefed on whether we can do that or not.
Well,
change the 9A procurement.
Right. Our ability to provide or find more car manufacturers has been something we have been struggling with through all of my years on the board, and I'm sure it goes back before my years on the board, to try to find new companies that would be interested in making rail cars, either under the old regulations, the existing regulations, and the new regulations. So expanding the availability of contractors hopefully will affect both the price and the schedule. That's the goal, to get the cars here quicker, which is our goal. So I think both of those issues are very in tune with what we're trying to accomplish in that regard. And let's see how it works its way out. The first goal, and the most important goal at the moment, is to get the M9s in service. That's the most important thing, regardless of the fact that they are obviously significantly delayed and there may be liquidated damages. Customers can't ride on liquidated damages. They can only ride on new M9 cars. So we have to do everything we can to get those in service as quickly as possible. Norman?
Yeah, well, it's my understanding that for as long as you've been struggling with the competitiveness of these procurements, there have been plenty of people in Washington that have wanted to dilute the crashworthiness regulations, and that there are, in fact, no new regulations, and that when these last contracts were effectuated, at that time, there were plenty of people who were all the same manufacturers, Bombardier, you know, the whole list of usual suspects. All of them have been behind the, you know, new regulations, yet no new regulations have ever materialized. Now, how you want to do your planning, you can plan on some new regulations. Maybe you talk to the Trump administration, they're big on deregulation. But, you know, I'm sure that you know, you have to progress with the laws that actually exist rather than the laws that somebody on the design team at Bombardier wants to exist.
Okay. There's also a track program quarterly update from Metro North. Kathy, do you want to add anything to the report, which is on page 103?
Yeah, no, this is just our quarterly report. Our new chief engineer, Dave Melillo, is here if you have any questions about it.
Are there any questions with regard to the report starting on page 103? If not, we will move on to procurements. Long Island Railroad is first.
Good morning. In the interest of time, I'll be very brief. There are 3 items in this month's package that total $35.4 million. No items in the non-competitive section and 2 items in the competitive section in the amount of $32.2 million. And 1 ratification for $3.2 million. The first item is a request to award a contract in the amount of $7,250,000 for additional spectrum in support of the implementation of positive train control. The second item is a request to award a contract, competitively negotiated contract in the amount of $25 million for scheduled and emergency bus services. And the last item is a request to approve a ratification of a modification to a miscellaneous service contract for scheduled rubbish removal and on-call container services in the not-to-exceed amount of $3,165,000. I submit these for your approval.
Any questions on these items? Chuck?
With respect to the first of those procurements, the one for the various bus companies, I noticed that 2 of them have Coach USA's subsidiary Suburban,
yes,
and the White Plains Bus Company both have SAIs. Are you contemplating, and shouldn't you contemplate, a monitor, either internal or external?
We will always consider whether monitorships are appropriate. In this case, where Coach was the parent company of Suburban, they were the, if you will, guilty party in the SAI. Suburban was not implicated or involved in any of those.
It's still the parent. Parent controls it. That's what the SAI regulations provide.
Understood.
Why are you not providing a monitor?
We will investigate whether a monitorship is.
Will you report back at the next meeting whether or not one is going to be appointed?
Certainly.
Number 2, with respect to the trash removal, that contract was made in 2013. Now you need another year to decide whether you're going to have a new RFP?
No, we have a new RFP that's ready to hit the street. We had an administrative issue in getting the change order completed last month, so we wouldn't have needed a ratification, number 1. In these situations, our experience has shown we're asking for a 6-month extension with a possible 6-month option.
That's a year.
That's correct. And the reason for the additional 6 months, when we have changed vendors in the past, swapping out all of the equipment has become somewhat of a problem in terms of removing the old equipment and putting the new equipment in place. I fully expect that we'll have this done within 6 months.
Let me make a point. May I respectfully suggest that you might touch base with procurement at transit, where they are taking significant steps to stop this kind of stuff, of where you have a contract that's 4, 5, and 6 years old, and then you have to extend it another 6 months or a year without competitive bidding in between, competitive bidding that could change the amount you are charged, competitive bidding that could induce others to enter into the field. This is wrong.
I'll be happy to speak with Mr. Plachocki.
Any other questions? The only question I had is,
I have one question.
oh, go ahead, Andrew. Go ahead.
For this extension, what's the rate? Is the rate different than the initial term?
Yes, the rates did go up about 5 or 6%.
5 or 6% from the original price or from the last price?
From
So, you know, this
From the
cost,
last price.
Mr. Merdler's point is really well taken because we were slow in getting this thing out. I don't understand why this continually happens when we know these contracts are coming up. We wait till the last minute. Now we're paying extra. Believe me, I'm sure we're paying extra to keep this contract in force. You have no choice, obviously. You have to pick the rubbish up, but it's ridiculous. I guarantee you we're paying extra money because we didn't get the damn contract done when we should have gotten it done. And I'd like to know what we're paying, and I'd like to get an estimate of how much this is costing us. It's ridiculous. What is everybody doing there? I mean, you had 6 years to renegotiate this contract. Now we wait to the last minute, and it cost us extra money because we didn't take care of what we were supposed to take care of. Chuck Merdler's 100% right. This is wrong.
Chairman, if I may just add one other comment.
Go right ahead.
Some months ago, we delivered to you for the Procurement Committee a number of recommendations designed to expedite and save money. Those efforts were focused on transit, which has done a splendid job under Steve Plucharki's leadership and Pat Foy's overall direction. But in the operating agencies, every single month we have one of these kind of problems or something like it. And that's wrong. It's time that those agencies also be looked at and very carefully examined. This is something that should never have happened. You had 5 years of a contract, and now we got to take another year, same players, more money. It's just wrong.
Understand. I would ask that, you know, no, I mean, there's no question that, I would ask that, Phil, if you could provide us next month with an analysis of this.
We'll certainly do
You know,
that.
we
We'll share it with the whole committee.
we understand the need to have rubbish removal. Of that there is no doubt. But obviously, the way it was done and the way it has been accomplished raises a significant number of concerns. So.
We will do that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? Randy?
Yeah, this item one about the spectrum, is this an individual that owns all this, or is it a company? And how does an individual...
I was going to ask the same question.
Okay,
I wanted to try to figure out how he got it in the first place. He got it at auction? Oh.
Rich, can you?
Yeah, it's held by an individual. This spectrum would have been auctioned off by the FCC quite some time ago when they began to privatize spectrum.
Is this a fair price to be paying, or this is...
Yes, we believe so. It's the same price we paid for a similar spectrum before. It was done competitively.
So the man made an investment in his... That's right. Some people buy other things. He bought Spectrum and made a deal. Okay. Any other questions on these items? If not, I'll make a motion to approve with the understanding that the president of the railroad will come back to us next month on the rubbish removal discussion in that regard. Susan, second. Any questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is approved. Metro North?
Good morning. Metro North has one procurement in this month's package, which is a non-competitive miscellaneous service contract in the not-to-exceed amount of $722,700 to Amtrak for the lease of 2 P-42 locomotives. And this is for a period of 6 months with an option for extending the lease period for up to including September 30th of 2019. These locomotives will be placed into service and used for MNR's fall rail washing program and to provide WASAIC's Southeast train service. And as noted in the staff summary, these 2 locomotives will free up 2 BL-20s to support Danbury and Waterbury branch service and provide switcher locomotive service throughout. May I please have a vote?
Kathy, I want to ask you a question. How do we get to a price of $700,000? I mean, I know nothing about this. It sounds like a heck of a lot of money for 2 engines for 6 months.
I think it is a heck of a lot of money, but the rate is $1,800 a day, which is apparently their commercial rate. So we're not getting a better rate, we're not getting a worse rate. We're getting the rate that they charge anybody who's going to lease the locomotives. That's their daily rate. So it's really just a function of multiplying the daily rate by the term. It really is. We're actually very fortunate to have found these. These are very high in demand. Other properties would like them, so we're very fortunate to have located these. And this is really an effort that we've undertaken, given some of the locomotive availability issues we've had for the past several months, to shore up the locomotive fleet. I mean, that's part of the problems that we've been having on the Hudson line have been related to locomotive availability. We're going to be able to, and branch line availability as well, so we're going to be able to use these two for the rail washing program in the fall, for service between Southeast and Wassaic, which will allow us to deploy other locomotives to branch line service in Connecticut. So I am not going to tell you it's not a lot of money. It is a lot of money, but it's something that we feel we need to do to improve the reliability of our locomotive fleet.
Any other comments or questions on this item for Metro North? If not, I'll make a motion to approve. Susan seconds. All in favor? Aye. Motion is approved. Capital Construction?
Good morning. Capital Construction's procurement package this month contains 2 items totaling $3.8 million and begins on page 139 of your committee book. Both items are competitive. I will not highlight them due to the lateness of the hour. We are here available to answer any questions that you might have.
Andrew?
First of all, I don't understand how you say this is competitive. The second thing, what bothers me about this thing, the internal estimate on one of them was $1 million, $1,063,000. Then the contractor, which how it's competitive, I don't know, comes up with a over $6 million price for something that we estimated $1 million, and then we agree at over $2.5 million contract. So to me, I mean, why do we call this competitive? And second of all, boy, it sure sounds like this is not a great deal here. I don't know. And the other one is the same kind of situation, I think.
Okay. Neither of these is a good deal.
No, it sounds like
neither of them is a good deal. They're both stories that of the kind of stuff that we're all trying to minimize on projects. So let me. I won't do justice to this stuff about the IP addresses. It has
is this 5-star again?
It is Tudor Perini. Tudor Perini, Mr. Saul, so just real quick, Tudor Perini controls all of the contracts of significance on the East Side Access project, except for one, the concourse construction being done by Dragatta. So they are our partner. We have to work with them, and they are very much a player, and they're advancing a lot of the important work. So the answer is yes, it is an affiliated company of 5-star, but they are very much involved with this project. So with respect to how we negotiate these things, so what usually happens, I think of all the things that bug all of us about these change orders, what you just mentioned probably ought to be on the lesser end. What happens is when a change order is done, is moved forward, you get a scope done, the two parties go off and do their estimates, and they come together. And what happens in the negotiation is not just dickering, if it's done right. There is a reconciliation of their analysis of what the work involved, what work is involved in delivering that scope. So I can't tell you that it's always perfect, but usually what happens if the process is done right, and I think our team does a pretty good job, if you look at generally the estimates, the negotiation ends a lot closer to our estimate than the contractors. But what happens is they sit down, they go through, how did you come up with that estimate? How did you analyze the number of person hours that would be involved in delivering that work, and so on and so on. So while I'm really unhappy with this change order, I'm confident that the negotiation took place appropriately. What it involves is and I'm going to have to ask Mike Kalita to come if we want to get into the substance, but we're talking about the very complicated area where you're redoing an entire kind of internet protocol system and all the IP addresses, because there are multiple parties who had input into those, and they were done wrong. And now we have to fix them. The second one is a stormwater That one we're literally going to pursue as an errors and omissions claim, because it involved, as far as I can see, it involved oversight by our design team of the correct designation under the relevant stormwater regulations. They used the wrong category in designing, and we're pursuing this as an errors and omissions claim, and it's in the errors and omissions panel. One thing that I've done is that we've stopped waiting to have a big process on errors and omissions claims and roll them all up into one big process. We're doing them month by month. So I've insisted that we don't wait, that we do them every month, that we have debate. It's mostly frankly with the insurer, the errors and omissions insurer of the design team. So it's not, that's who we're fighting with in the errors and omissions area, and that's why it takes a long time. But we're determined to negotiate them as fast as we can, get the money back into the project. So I can't tell you that there's anything good news about these change orders. I just want to take the opportunity to reassure you how we're handling them in terms of following up and trying to collect from others who are responsible.
And they are essential in moving the project forward at the moment.
We wouldn't be asking.
We wouldn't be asking
otherwise.
if you wouldn't. Right.
I mean, honestly, in the systems area, we got to keep moving.
Right. Understand. Any other comments or questions on either of these two items? If not, I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Susan seconds. All in favor? Aye. Motion is carried. In the book are the agency reports on both Long Island Railroad and Metro North for August and September. Are there any questions on any of these items? Ira?
Yes, I want to point out the continuing problem with the diesel fleet. I know in past reports it said there was a traction motor switch out. That's fine, but they're dragging down the overall MDBF of the railroad, so they're really responsible. And also we see Metro North looking at new locomotives. I just wonder what's Long Island Railroad's long-term plan for new diesel locomotives, considering the ongoing poor performance of our current fleet.
Well, right now, the immediate need right now is to try and find diesel coaches for next year. We're trying to do that in terms of just pure capacity. But right now, we're also reviewing all of our rolling stock needs, and not only electric, but diesel territory. It's something that has been an ongoing concern since I've got here, and it's something that we've been looking at. How do we best advance that? And because it is something that it's not just the new M9s coming online that doesn't serve the diesel territory, and we are looking at how to procure that, including locomotives for that.
Is there going to be a report or something in the beginning of next year as we move towards the next capital program? Is that what we're anticipating?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. All right. I look forward to that.
Because that is impacted by whether or not there is additional electrification, so that we have less diesel and more electric to use the different type of cars in that regard.
Correct.
Right. Chuck, do you have a question?
That's the point. Could we also get at a early date a report on electrification? In other words, when do you think you'll have it? Do you want it? And to what extent?
Certainly can. Something that's being evaluated now as part of long-term needs as well as the next capital program.
So when do you think the board might have a report on that and on diesels? Because the two are, as you pointed out, related to one another. Spring?
No, before then.
All right.
It is a significant, as Phil and I have talked many times, it is a significantly important topic of conversation on Long Island. Is that a fair way of putting it?
Absolutely.
That's a fair way of putting it, because it has a variety of impacts, one of which is whether you need new diesel cars and locomotives, but there are other impacts in the variety of communities. So it is something that has been discussed, and hopefully we'll get to a solution very shortly. Veronica, did you have something you wanted to add? Go right ahead.
Just two quick questions on operating report. Why were there so many Sandees on the Huntington branch? And then why was escalator availability so impacted for City Terminal?
The Standees there are programmatic standees, and then there are, operational standees. The programmatic is an ongoing issue with storage, with being able to find storage space up on the branch. Then that's just a function of not having the actual real estate to be able to store. And then the functional is a result of operational perturbation. So if you have a train that is supposed to have 12 cars on a particular day, and that train is 2 cars short, that will contribute to the actual number.
And if I could add, the Huntington standees is something that we're taking a hard look at with regards to potential addressing as part of the next capital program. It's something that we know is important to that
Randy?
So when you get finished doing all
Sorry.
the other
Oh,
stuff,
you had one more
escalator.
question. Sorry. The escalator issue. I'm sorry. You want your question about the escalator?
It was just significantly lower than the other percentages at City Terminal at 92.6%. So I was just wondering what was impacting that.
We've had some issues in Penn Station, and we are going aggressively now and doing some escalator rehabs in a short period of time. If you notice right now at 34th Street, we have 34A out for refurbishment under a 5-week period, so we're working double shifts there with the contractor to make sure they get repaired. We did see some of the liability downturn, and we're quickly upturning it now by renewing them.
Thank you. Randy? Go ahead.
when you get finished doing all the other requests, can the board get at some point an operating plan for when East Side Access opens so we know where the trains are going to? Thank you.
Chuck?
Can I just give you, there's not much you can learn from Russia, but there is one thing. Every single day, at the end of the day, every escalator in every metro station of the Moscow subway system is swept and cleaned, and they have a hell of a lot less breakdowns than we do.
Point of information. Any other comments or questions on any of these items? If not, motion to adjourn. Second, all in favor. Thank you all very much.